Okay. I'd like to call to order the Thursday, June 20th, City of New Bern Planning and Zoning Board meeting. Kendra, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. I'm going to start off with Board Member Kyle Deering. Here. Board Member Margie Dunn.
Here.
Board Member Sonny Aluzo.
Here.
Chairman Brad Jefferson.
Here.
Board Member Rusty Ingram. Here. Board Member Kelly Kaiser.
Here.
Board Member Thomas Brownell.
Here.
And Board Member Marshall Ballard. Please note for the record, Mr. Ballard is not here. And we do have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Kendrick. Would please everyone join me for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so next item is Chairman's remarks. I'm going to speak on my favorite topic of the past 6 months really quick on the rules and procedures. So just as a little bit of a background, I wanted some rules and procedures for a board to follow and for a future chair to follow when they take over, and for other board members to come in when they take over so that they know what the board's all about, kind of the process, and have everything laid out. Because when I became chair, there was some staff changeover, and we kind of reinvented this whole thing every meeting. And so we've been working towards a rules of procedure. And I must apologize. I got too busy last month. Didn't get what I thought was our final rules and procedures to Kendrick until this morning, and our wonderful city attorney has corrected some things that are in there, added a lot of legalese to it, which I like. There's a lot of good stuff in there. There's some other things that I want to add, kind of pointing out exactly what the board is needed. I understand it's in the land use ordinance, but I'd like it in one place. It would make it much simpler for members and everyone to find. So the two things that I do want to quickly discuss, and then I'll open it up to the board for discussion, is we had discussed when the election for chair would be and their term. It's on page 2, section 4. I like January. It's first of the year. That makes sense to me. A one-year term, I think, is good. We had discussed, maybe some longer terms. There were some board members that thought maybe it should be 2 years or longer. I think 1 year gives the person in the chair seat time to get used to this, because it is different. Oftentimes, there's a big audience. We're on television, and you're trying to run the meeting. But I think the board should have an opportunity every year, if that person isn't doing a good job, to remove them if they so choose. But I'm open to discussion on that. We also changed from 4 minutes to 3 minutes the public comment in section G. We have done 3 minutes the past couple times. For whatever reason, I still had it at 4. I think 3 is right, but again, open to discussion. And then lastly, the working groups, which we talked about. I know there's a couple in the works, or at least one in the works, that I'd like to get done and get started. As Jamie has told me, and I'll reiterate here quickly, there's 2 ways we can do this. One, the Board of Aldermen can tell us that we're going to do a working group. And in that, there's a higher probability that something will get done and voted on by the Board of Aldermen, given we don't have any real power. And the other way is we could do it ourselves. And we could form a working group, and we could do a thing. My example to Jamie earlier was, we can make a working group that the logo for the city of New Bern should be green, and we want it to be green, and we do a bunch of meetings, and we make a bunch of time, and we spend a year, and we tell the Board of Aldermen we think the logo should be green, and they tell us, no, it's not going to be green. And that's our prerogative. We can do that. It's a little riskier. It's going to be a lot of people's time, but I think we should do that, because I do think there are important issues that have been discussed on the board that the Board of Aldermen need to hear. And from a group of people like this, and for future members that are coming on, I think it would be good, and that would be important. So with that, I'll briefly open up to discussion of anything the board wants to talk about on this rules and procedures, if there is anything.
I just have one question.
Sure.
On working groups, about 3/4 of the way down, it starts, the clerk shall be notified.
Meeting notified?
Yeah.
That is an excellent point. Should be notified. I'll find it.
Where is this located?
It's on I, working groups, about 3/4 of the way down on the right-hand side of it.
Yep, should be, yeah, it says me, should be B. I'll change that for sure. Good catch.
I have not had time to read this yet.
Yeah, we got it done today. So my hope would be, at the next meeting, I won't be here, but if, I would ask again, if anybody has any comments, email me or email Kendrick. We can incorporate them in and maybe get it on the agenda. As long as it's good and the board is happy with it, I'm happy with most of what's in here. I would welcome having it on the agenda next meeting, and you guys can vote on it in my absence. I wouldn't have a problem with it at all.
Can we get I'm sorry. Questions and I just went through things I kind of thought of. Would you prefer those in email, or I can bring those up now?
Sure. Yeah, I am going to meet with Jamie next week on a couple of my questions. So yeah, anything you have, send it to me, and we'll iron this
Yeah,
thing out.
I'll just email it.
Okay, awesome.
Are we allowed to share comments amongst all the board members?
What you want to avoid is deliberation outside of the meeting. So if you have comments and you want to perhaps make them in the text of the document, the Word document that has been circulated, that would be appropriate, and everybody could just add their comments. But getting into a back and forth via email could run afoul of the open meeting.
So we could copy everyone on the board and just say, here are my comments, and that would be acceptable.
Can we get this latest version?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I think the chair has it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll send it out to everyone after this meeting.
Okay.
And what you might do is once the draft document is circulated, if you have particular thoughts or comments, you can make those comments in the text and reply back. Make sure you copy Kendrick so that it's on the city server. So if anybody has a request, the city captures it. And then staff, Kendrick, myself, and the chair will get together. We'll synthesize those comments. If we need any additional understanding or insight from whichever board member may have offered those comments, we can contact you. And hopefully we can have a draft ready for adoption and consideration at the July meeting.
I don't want this to go on too much longer. It's been long enough. I want it done. Any other comments on the rules and procedures? Hearing none, I'm going to move on to item 5A, the rezoning on Trent Road. Kendrick, do you have a brief for us?
Okay, sorry about that. And good evening, Mr. Chairman, and to the board. This first item that we have tonight is the rezoning 002-870-2024. This is the Trent Road rezoning. And the request summary, the applicant is Tarheel Building Systems, Inc. The owner is Tyson and Hines Investment, LLC, and the location is 3402 and 3402A Trent Road. Current zoning is commercial 3 and commercial 4. It's split zoned. That's between both properties. And the proposed zoning is commercial 3 in its entirety. So the parcel identification numbers between both are 8-045-035 and 8-045-3000. The size in totality is 1.89 total acres roughly. And the commercial 3 district, just to kind of give a quick description, pretty much it's allowing for your differences of businesses. This particular commercial district is for, or located, I guess, on high volume traffic arteries, and is subject to not only local residents, but tourists and other non-local motorists. So again, this accommodates pretty much majority of your non-residential style uses. And the C4 commercial district has some similarities. It pertains to neighborhood business district, or at least it is well within for the neighborhood business district, providing for the retailing of goods and services, very similar in some aspects to the C3, just more neighborhood friendly is how it's kind of preferenced. And the uses comparison chart here, I'll kind of let you guys just take a quick peek at this. But you've got uses on both sides between C3 and C4, some of which are, allowed or permitted by right on both sides, and then some of which require a special use permit on one side but not the other. So I've tried to give you some examples of each to kind of show you what the districts necessarily have in common and what they may not have in common. And the consideration, the proposed rezoning involves two properties that are currently split zoned again, and this is commercial 3 and commercial 4. Adjacent or abutting properties, based on the zoning chart that I was, or the zoning map that I was examining, has properties adjacent and abutting that are zoned residential 10, commercial 3, and commercial 4. And just a picture of the subject property. And here is our buffer map, just showcasing that 100-foot buffer around the property lines. And the folks that, of course, are within this buffer were notified. Those letters are in your packets as well. Were sent to you to view. That's followed by the vicinity map, and that just highlights the two parcels. That is the greenish color you see there. We had to change the color for the outlining due to the zoning, so you'll kind of see that here shortly. And this is the aerial for the property, or properties, excuse me.
Is that right across the street from EDP?
I
Eastern
wish I could
Dermatology?
tell you 100%. I do not know, to be
Looking at
honest
that
with
photo.
you.
It's all both ways. Yeah.
But here is the zoning map, and this is showcasing that split between the C3 and the C4. The C4 zoning district is that lighter red, and the C3 is the darker red.
And the white across has no zoning?
The white is for the county. That's on the county side as far as I understand it. Everything else that has color is within the city's municipal boundary.
Okay, because looking at the... Okay, never mind. Interesting.
And the actions needed, pretty much the same difference. It's the adoption of the consistency statement and the recommendation for the Board of Aldermen.
All right.
And if the board has any questions, I'll take those at this time.
Board have any questions?
Do we have any history as to why this was split zoned like this?
I do not have anything that I can reference or offer as to why or how that happened.
Thought I'd ask.
I don't know if the applicant may have some information to share for that. You're definitely welcome to ask to see if that's the case.
Does the applicant know? Is the applicant here?
I'll let the applicant speak for you.
Do you have any idea of the history of the property and why it was split zoned like this to begin
I'm
with?
sorry, sir. Go ahead.
Do you have any idea why it was split zoned like this to begin with?
I think maybe when, and I couldn't find a historical zone on this particular property because they don't have it for so many years back.
Mm-hmm.
But I suspect what happened was the city annexed it. They just dropped whatever was in that place at that time. The preponderance of Trent Road is C3, and as it should be. I mean, there's 11,533 trips per day between Highland Avenue and McCarthy Drive. So it's clearly a transitional area. The abutting residential neighborhood is surrounded on three sides by C3 zoning at the current time. And it's awfully hard for a property owner to be able to develop a piece of property when he's zoned two different ways. So
Sure.
it would seem to me reasonable, obviously, or I wouldn't have requested it, that y'all do Mr. Tyson the favor and Ms. Hines the favor of rezoning the property to C3. The use that they intend will be, or is historically a low traffic use. It doesn't make any noise. It doesn't have any permanent tenants. It doesn't create any dust or noxious offensive activities. Conditioned mini storage is just not something people go to every day. You put your stuff in there, and then next year you go back, or maybe in 2 months you go to be sure the air conditioner's still working and everything's still on. But other than that, it's pretty quiet occupancy, yeah.
So that's the intent, is to put mini storage on it?
I'm sorry, ma'am?
The intent is to put mini storage on it?
Conditioned mini storage, yes, ma'am. Mhm. Oh, well, I didn't bring a site plan,
Yeah.
but there's the parcel, I don't have this picture, but he's got it. If you see the building, you got your area, you see the building looking at the property as if north is straight ahead to the west, that would probably be used in a different fashion. Something under C3, but in a different fashion. Then the back parcel is what would be developed. The front parcel is not involved in the current site plan.
Any other questions from the board? All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I will entertain a motion on this item.
And Mr. Chair, just to remind the board, as Kendrick has indicated, you need to adopt a consistency and reasonable statement before you make your recommendation.
Okay.
Or in conjunction with making your recommendation.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I did not include that in the packet, but if you need that verbiage, I do have it here, and I can at least recite it.
Well, I can't make the motion, but if someone else needs that verbiage, I think Rusty has it, because he's spot on the ball as usual.
I don't know if I still do.
Slipping.
Nope, I don't have it.
Oh, no. All right. Yeah, give us the verbiage and,
So the verbiage, if it is, this is for it being consistent, whereas the City of New Bern Planning and Zoning Board has reviewed a petition to consider the rezoning and finds the proposed zoning map amendment to be considered, or excuse me, consistent with the 2022 Land Use Plan Update and 2010 Land Use Plan. Now therefore be it resolved by the City of New Bern Planning and Zoning Board that the proposed amendment to the City of New Bern's official zoning map and presented documentation are found to be consistent with the city's 2022 Land Use Plan Update and 2010 Land Use Plan, and are determined to be reasonable and in the public interest. And basically, if it's the reverse of that, in essence, if it's inconsistent for you all participating in the vote.
got all that, Sonny?
Oh, yeah, I have it memorized.
So if you're inclined to find that this proposal is consistent, someone might make a motion styled as follows: that they move that the board adopt the consistency and reasonableness statement just recited by staff.
Okay.
I make a motion.
Second. So,
Yeah, consistency or inconsistent?
Consistent.
Okay. A motion of consistency, as you said, and I have a second. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Let's move on to item 5B, rezoning of 201 South Glenburnie.
Y'all have the softest voices.
You got the, yeah, consistent.
Did you make the recommendation
We
to
gotta
the
make
Board of
the
Alderman?
Oh, this is why we need those rules and procedures.
That's what I was trying to say.
the application of rezoning to us.
All right, I have a motion to approve the application of rezoning.
Is that a
And
motion
send to
to
the-
recommend that the
I
Board of Alderman
recommend,
approve?
I motion that
We
we
recommend to
recommend,
the board that,
we recommend to the Board of Aldermen that we approve the rezoning.
I second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries as well. Now, Kendrick. That's what happens when you only do this once a month.
All right, and for the second item here, we have the rezoning 002-900-2024. This is for the property located at 201 South Glenburnie Road. Just give me just a moment.
Just push it harder. Push it. Yeah.
Aim it.
Space bar.
Stuck.
City T-boys.
Jump.
Got it.
Sorry about that. So the request summary here, the applicant is Sean Corcoran, the owner's Corcoran LLC, and the location here again is 201 South Glenburnie Road. The current zoning right now is C4, Commercial 4. Proposed zoning here is Industrial 1, and that's I-1 for abbreviation. The parcel identifier is 8-240-4001. And the size here is roughly 0.85 total acres. And the Commercial 4 district, once again, is more or less your neighborhood business district. This is inclusive to retailing of goods and services to the nearby neighborhoods. That's the simple and the short gist of it. And for the industrial district, this is one that you really quite haven't heard of necessarily, but it's supposed to be conducive to a quiet manner of specific large volume style outdoor amusement facility. More or less, I guess, these are things that generate large volumes of automobile traffic potentially, but it's supposed to be conducted in a quiet manner. Then the regulations here are designed to prohibit the use of land for heavy industry, which should be properly segregated, and to prohibit any other use which would substantially interfere with said development of industrial and wholesaling establishments. So, and the use comparison chart, this is going to change slightly. You can take a moment to kind of look this over as well, but on the left here you have the C4, Commercial 4 district, and then the right is the Industrial 1. Again, there's some variations of those uses that do change. They're not all the same, not all exactly similar, but there are some similarities. And the consideration here, the proposed rezoning involves one property that is currently zoned Commercial 4. Adjacent or abutting properties are zoned currently Residential 6, Commercial 4, and Industrial 1. And there's the picture for the subject property. And the first map here is, again, the buffer map, just showcasing that 100-foot buffer that we take. Any properties that were within that receive notification. And the second map here is a vicinity map. This is just highlighting and showcasing the parcel itself. The third map here is the aerial for the actual property, and again, just here highlighted in red. And the next map here, this is the zoning map, reflective. It's supposed to be more colored in. I apologize. There might have been a discrepancy there. Primarily, all that's surrounding this parcel where it's highlighted in red is industrial, and it's a darker gray color. It came out pretty light. I'm just now noticing that. But primarily, it should be darker gray. That is all industrial that you see that is abutting on both sides and on the rear of that property. So I apologize that it's pretty light. And actions needed, once again, adoption of the consistency statement and the recommendation for the Board of Aldermen. And if the board has any questions, I'll try to answer those at this time.
Board have any questions? Any discussion on this side? No? All right, then I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion, you want me to do the proposal amendment presented with the documents are found to be consistent, the land use plans of 2010 and 22, and determined by the public interest. So I motion to accept it.
Okay, have a motion?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. We'll now need a motion for recommendation.
I move we recommend to the Board of Aldermen to approve the zoning change request.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries as well. Finally, item 5C, subdivision text amendment.
All right, Mr. Chairman, this is the last item for tonight. It's the City of New Bern subdivision text amendment. Jamie, if you will hit the enter for me, I appreciate it. So the synopsis here, basically the short gist of what we are asking or proposing is to change the authorization, which is within a written form right now currently within and being held within the Planning and Zoning Board, to be approved essentially by myself or essentially the acting zoning administrator. This would extend to the approvals of subdivisions primarily, and that is in essence what we are proposing. Currently, there would be absolutely no change to the way that the protocol and the processing of these actual subdivisions would go. Simply put, you don't necessarily control the ability to say no pending that it meets all of the actual standards in accordance with our land use ordinance. So, and that's going to be followed through no matter what or who is that approving body. So nothing is virtually changing. It's just the authorization point switches from yourselves to the zoning administrator. But I'll field any questions if the board has any.
I'm guessing that'll speed things up between general plan and final plat approval.
The efficiency level would increase tremendously. The workload would be lessened as well. And then on top of that, not necessarily just, I mean, it's a boost to the citizen as well with having direct access in terms of certain information if they need it. They can contact myself and that can be provided. It's public record.
Okay.
Is there any downside to doing this?
I think just to be clear, we're not changing anything in the standards. This is a change that's coming in our ordinance repackaging that we're working on right now. Most jurisdictions have changed this and taken this out of an ordinance a long time ago when this board kind of lost the ability to kind of, we've gotten frustrated before looking at subdivisions, those of you that have been here a while, thinking, well, this makes more sense, but then we don't have the right at this level to require it. So what is really the point of bringing this here except adding more paperwork on staff? I don't think there's any downside. I think the developers are going to love it because they're going to get their approval 2 months faster.
I think that
And we have been currently getting quite a few concerns with the time that it takes staff to approve a general plan, followed by that same procedure for a final plat. So to remove a month off the end of both processes would greatly increase the efficiency.
Well, I move we recommend to the Board of Aldermen to adopt this text amendment as written and provided to us by staff.
I second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that item? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. There's a public comment here. There is no public.
There's no public.
Does the board have any comments? No? Hearing none, I'll move to adjournment. I'll entertain a motion.
I move we adjourn.
I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? We are adjourned.